Aloha, everyone, and welcome back. This is Marissa Indigo with Divine DNA Blueprint Mystery School coming at you. So, I needed a minute to integrate. The codes have been nonstop. The physical upgrades have been nonstop. The solar activity just keeps on pumping out those solar flares and a lot of other really exciting stuff going on. We've got the 222s coming up next week, going into February, and the astrology has been incredibly invigorating and initiating all at once. And I have been really excited to share this topic with you guys. So this topic has been floating around in my consciousness for about not quite 2 weeks. And so I've been really looking forward to making this video. And usually an idea will filter in, and then I have to kind of just let it filter through and make sure that I can present it in a way that is authentic. And one of the things that I really strive for, and there's that, it's funny because we're going to talk about ego here, and then I just use the word strive. But essentially, those of you that have been with me on this journey, those of you that are new, I welcome you to this journey of consciousness and authenticity and showing up. And sometimes we can't show up because we're deep in it, deep in the programs, deep in deprogramming those programs, holding ourselves in compassion and self-care. So my goal is to always deliver to you guys. The time is now to get it together. And last week, I really needed some space to integrate so much. I am a parent. So I'm a mother, and right now we find ourselves as parents in a very interesting situation between the worlds. The old system, the education system that we had for our children, does not serve our children anymore. It really never has, but it's consistently deteriorated over the years, and the distortions now are just so loud in the school system for our children. So I homeschool my daughter right now. And that's something that I'm going to talk about in another video. I wanted to share conscious parenting and just to provide any kind of support. So anyways, that's going to be another video. I don't want to go off on a tangent with that. But last week, I needed the space to integrate everything that I was seeing in my explorations of looking for solutions and really starting to realize that what I want doesn't exist. So anyway, that's for another video. So back to this topic. The topic that I'm very excited to share with you all is that of the body, the final frontier. So welcome to the final frontier on the spiritual awakening journey, the ascension journey. This is an ascension and an ascension process where we are ascending our human aspects and we are ascending or descending the soul into the body, where we can merge, where soul meets body. So this is a very deep topic, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback on this. My goal was to take time with this before presenting it because it's very near to my own life experience. All of my consciousness awakening processes that happened in childhood all revolved around health and the body. And the reason this is such an important topic now to present to you is that the shift is getting real. We had the nodes of the moon change just a few weeks ago. The north node of the moon is now in the sign of Taurus, which is ruled by the planets Earth and Venus. So this is all about the body. This is about our physical reality. This is about the dream becoming real. And that also counts for our physical body because our body is our vehicle. So as we jump into this massive topic, which is extremely esoteric and beautiful and potent and can be very emotional, because this is where the journey gets real. This is where we have to face, all right, what have I been running from? How have I potentially been, doing the ostrich syndrome with my head in the sand? What do I hold in how I feel towards my body? What has happened to me in my life that is stored in my body? And where have I been running, perhaps self-medicating to avoid the unavoidable, which is now here in our face? So the Buddha said, to love our body and to honor our body because it is the vehicle for awakening. The ancient Egyptians of the higher Atlantean timelines and that Syrian code of amazing star wisdom have shared the Merkaba, this concept of the vehicle, which is animated by the spirit, the soul, the breath, right? So with that, I take a deep breath and encourage you to do the same. So if we start to think about the body as a vehicle for our awakening, well, what does that really mean? Well, in my own personal experience, the body is showing us everything that we are holding in our consciousness in the different frequency bands, different layers of consciousness that correspond to different parts of our brain. So I'm talking about trauma here and the limbic brain and the limbic system and the vagus nerve. Those of us who have grown up with trauma, okay, I grew up in an extremely verbally abusive household. It was terrifying. You didn't even want to breathe too loudly or take up any space. So I was extremely shut down in my body. And I also stored all of the negativity of the toxicity of my environment as my parents were doing their best to function, right, without any tools. This is all generational buildup. It's all kind of a collapsing of all of the generations preceding our own and the distortion that comes from a lack of consciousness, a lack of connection. It's all part of the process. And each and every single one of us is here to collapse all of the distortion in our timelines. If you are familiar with some of my life experiences, I have shared in the extremely vulnerable and authentically raw footage video of the life review. We're going to start talking about some of these deeper topics. So I want to give a trigger warning right now. If your consciousness is not yet ready or prepared to handle things like sexual trauma, near-death experiences, serious car accidents, surgeries, and more visceral graphic content, then I suggest that you stop the video and return if you ever feel the inclination to return to such a topic. All right, now with that, loves, let us proceed. So I think the best way to share this information is to share from my own life experience, okay? So growing up, like I shared, it was a very daunting environment. You're kind of scared for your life all the time that we were going to be yelled at or physically harmed. And needless to say, this fear stored itself in the different organs in my body. So it started with me being just a few years old and having really serious asthma where I had to be hospitalized quite a bit. Now, the lungs is where we store fear and grief. Okay, now we roll it down a couple years. So that was about 2 and 3 years old, having serious breathing issues. That's just the beginning. Then when I was, when I was 7 years old, almost 8 years old, I was diagnosed with a very rare autoimmune kidney disorder called nephrotic syndrome. And that is where your kidneys no longer synthesize the proteins coming out of your body and into your blood. And it has to do with your urinary system. Essentially there becomes a buildup. There's a code missing in how we are assimilating nutrition and protein from what we're taking in. And it kind of starts to back up and no longer work, and you could become septic. So again, fear in the kidneys, right? So this led to my taking a steroid, a pharmaceutical steroid called Prednisone. Some of you may be familiar with this. This is a pharmaceutical that is administered quite commonly for a variety of different issues. It's a steroid. Some people use it for allergies, rashes, all kinds of different things. It's a very serious medication, and it actually ended up causing near lethal ramifications for myself. I was taking mega doses of it, and with that had a lot of water retention in my body. It's one of the side effects of it. Another side effect that was not really disclosed and not really understood at that time was the potential for blood thickening, which causes blood clots. So after taking mega doses of this steroid for a year and a half, I started to have issues being able to walk down the street because I couldn't breathe. And I kept fainting on the playground and blacking out, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And I'm smiling because I'm getting emotional, so I'm sorry about that. So we were living on the Big Island at the time and didn't have the fanciest access in the hospitals to different instruments to try to figure out what the heck was going on. So I kept fainting on the playground, like playing tag and stuff like that and getting bloody knees. All right, I apologize. You never really know how emotional you're going to get sharing things like this. So we're just going to keep going as best as we can. So essentially, for a few weeks, this was happening where I'm just trying to play on the playground at school and I would just keep fainting and, blacking out, and no one could figure it out. So we made a few trips to the hospital in Hilo, which was the nearest town. I grew up in Pahoa on the Big Island. And they didn't have the most sophisticated equipment when it came to the x-ray machines. So no one could really figure out what the heck was going on. It finally got so bad that I couldn't walk down the street. I was like, Mom, I feel like I'm gonna, like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So long story short, I had to be air ambulanced over on the island of Oahu. They had a really amazing specialty hospital, Kapiolani Hospital. It's for women and children. And there they were able to determine that the prednisone had caused a pulmonary thrombosis. And that is pulmonary system is the cardiac and the respiratory system together. That's heart and lungs. So in the connection of my left lung, that main artery of the left lung, there was a blood clot that was essentially blocking oxygen to my left lung. So I was basically at this point having like one functioning lung. So anyways, that was quite an experience. And there were some really miraculous things that happened in that hospital. An Indian doctor who was a heart specialist actually ended up putting me on an experimental blood thinner that was meant for adults, and that was done intravenously. And that actually dissolved the clot. So it was truly a miracle, as opposed to having to have, open heart or like a cutting my chest open kind of a surgery to try to remove the clot. So that's where one of the most major downloads, communications from higher self occurred. I spent 2 weeks in that hospital for this process, and it was very interesting because the prednisone and all this stuff going on with my kidneys, I had, like, you'll see this if you look at pictures of people when they take mega doses of prednisone, they have kind of the chipmunk cheeks, like, like that. And that's from the water retention. So I went in with one body as a little child, 2 weeks in there, had, miraculous healing thanks to the innovation of this Indian heart specialist who also activated my whole Vedic lineage of many lives as a Vedic shaman and a priest and a medicine person, a holy person in that whole traditional lineage, which now carries forward into this day, because you flash forward 10 years and I started studying Ayurvedic medicine. So in the hospital, I received this transmission one day. I'm sitting there and higher self came in really strongly. And it was just within me. It was this, whole conversation within me with angels and my higher self. And they were showing me how I created the disease, the dis-ease. And it was from taking in the toxicity, the mental and emotional toxicity of my environment and my own emotions and being toxic within myself, and showing me how this crystallized, the energies of this crystallized in different parts of my body. I was shown how we create dis-ease through a lack of alignment with high frequency energies by holding lower frequency energies within us. And these emotions getting stuck, we can become very ill. Then I was shown how we have free will. And I was shown basically a crossroads. I could go this way and continue on the path of toxicity and illness and darkness and depression and all of that I was feeling, or I could go the other way, which was actually what I had originally signed up for, this path of teaching empowerment and health and teaching humanity, sharing with them my story and how powerful we truly are in regards to the mind-body connection to heal the body, and to understand that when we have a dis-ease or a misalignment within ourselves, that it's actually, we need to reconfigure that with our mind and our emotions unified together. So it's the mind and the heart connecting with the body, with the spirit, with the soul. So that was one of the major transmissions that I received that showed me my purpose in this life. So it's very exciting now, because here we are in 2022, and I finally have the ovaries to share part of my story with you all. So I'm trying to, if I can, build a bridge to share with you how disease manifests, how illness manifests, and in turn, how we can heal from it. So I actually had to spend 9 months after this process in the hospital with my mom, working out and doing all of these different things to help my body come back online from having a lot of bloat. And I did have a lot of weight gain because the prednisone made me really hungry. So I basically doubled my body weight as a little kid. My parents didn't know. I mean, no one knew what was going on. Everyone was doing their best. And so I do have scars, stretch marks all over my body from this experience. I call them my tiger stripes now. But I just want to share that with anyone who feels shame over any of your scars or, oh gosh, okay. We can do it. We can do it. Ah. I definitely feel it's important to share just with anybody that has scars from surgeries or illness or pregnancy, any of that, to please not judge yourself for it or feel less than or imperfect or anything like that, because it's not true. It's all about your story, and our experiences can mark our bodies, and you should definitely be proud and definitely don't feel bad about it. So anyway. All right, so that was one of the most major turning points in my existence of that illness. Why I'm sharing this is because a lot of us, whether you identify with being, a galactic shaman or any of that, I mean, a lot of this, the lineage stories talk about, oh yeah, the shamans have near-death experiences, they get really ill, they have all of these different things happen to them that are really gnarly in order to just shock them and get the soul in there. And it's kind of almost like a walk-in experience where all of a sudden you open up to your higher self aspects, coming through you. So what was really trippy about that whole experience is that when I came home from the hospital, and I was almost 9 years old when this happened. I remember coming home after that, receiving that transmission essentially of like, here, you have free will, and here's what you came to do, and here's your divine dispensation. And it's like, okay, I came home and I remember looking at my Barbies and stuff and being like, I'm like millions of years old. Like, I'm not interested in those anymore. And that was a very, very weird experience because there wasn't anybody to talk to about it. I was able to tell my mom, like, I'm not really interested in my dolls anymore, because I realized that even though I was a child, I was really actually like, millions of years old with a mission. And it was strange, neat, to say the least, right? To have that body and yet start to try to reconcile that consciousness, which took a long time to be able to do that. Anyway, going on from that major experience, I want to share. So we're going to flash forward about 10 years. I was 19 years old and I was having my routine pap smear done and was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer. And that was interesting, to have a bunch of chunks taken out of me for testing. It was one of the most horrific experiences ever. But even worse than that, to add insult to injury, the OB was, I don't know why, but she was very, very mean. She was very judgmental and cold, and essentially telling me that, oh, I have, stage 3 cervical cancer because I'm a whore, because I admitted to being sexually active at 19. So that was weird. And again, didn't resonate with me. Oh my gosh, I just realized I forgot to share this. So part of my healing journey from the blood clot was taking oral chemotherapy. And I distinctly remember a visit with a doctor when they were just going over this with me and my mom. And they told me that I most likely would not be able to conceive. So what I want to share in this is the importance of not putting too much stock into a diagnosis. What I mean by that is right now we have this issue going on where a doctor is God and their word is sealed. And then we come away with a death sentence and we just fall, and all of our energy goes into believing that. And then there's this whole thing that happens. So I just want to share that when we receive a diagnosis, not to give all of our power away to it, because everything is a maybe, maybe not, and everything can be shifted. And that's what I'm here to share about the body. Everything can be healed if you so desire. It depends on what aligns with you for your soul, what you feel you're here to do, and what you truly want and what you truly believe. And that's an individual process. But I'm here to tell you that we are walking miracles and we can invoke and live miracles. And if that wasn't true, I wouldn't be here, because the whole journey that I had with my health as a young child was just always knowing like, oh, everything will be fine. I wasn't really worried. It was all a message. It was a soul level message to initiate me and wake me the fuck up, to get me on the right track so that I could fulfill my purpose here, to shift and to support humanity in the shift. So sorry, I'm digressing because there's a lot in this, and it's very emotional for me also, and also very exciting to share this. I've been waiting my whole fucking life to share this, so thank you for receiving me. When that doctor told me, I was about 9 years old, oh, you most likely will not be able to conceive. What I thought in my head was something along the lines of, well, motherfucker, you're wrong, because I've already seen my child. And this is true. When I was little, I've been an oracle and a seer my whole life. Finally had professional training with that to support me to really utilize my gifts, and kind of regulate the information. But when I was little, I would have these visions of myself and my daughter, the two of us out in the world. So I knew that that was a reality, and it felt like it was a real and true reality for me. So when that doctor told me that I may not be able to conceive, it didn't even enter me. That's what I'm talking about when we receive a diagnosis. Just to hold that energetic of maybe, maybe not, and just don't let it take everything you have and just kind of collapse all of your energy into this portal of destruction, or anticipation of suffering or a huge battle or anything horrific, because that doesn't have to be the case. And I'm living proof of that. Also, because I didn't believe that man, I have a daughter. And she's incredible, and she's almost 13 years old. And I'm really big on, conscious parenting. We're here for this, right? We're here in it right now. So these are really important codes for me to drop for you guys right now. And that's why the body is the final frontier, because it's going to show us through really gnarly illness or accidents, or even something as subtle, not really subtle though, right? As hitting your head, cutting your finger, stubbing your toe. These are all messages to fucking pay attention, to wake up. Okay. So now I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the topic of where we could store things in the body. Now, for me personally, I stored sexual trauma deep within the nervous system. And in my late teens, early 20s, this actually resulted in me having like Epstein-Barr kind of chronic fatigue, symptoms presenting themselves. So again, this whole journey is how I got into alternative medicine. When I got sick with the kidney disorder, I was taking the high dosages of prednisone. I was also taking or participating in herbal medicine with Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine, with herbal medicine that way, and also acupuncture. So, crystal healing, faith healing, prayer networks. So my illness showed me a whole world of kind of more of the ancient modalities that we used to use back in the day, to bring ourselves into balance. So this is why I'm sharing all of this with you. So flash forward again to when I was diagnosed with the cervical cancer, and I remembered all the things that had happened to me before, all of the diagnoses and everything I'd ever been through. And I was just like, no, it's not true. I don't have that. Right. And then I left it alone. I went home because I was in a lot of pain from the different tests that they were doing. They literally ripped chunks out of my cervix to test them under a microscope. I mean, it was, and then not only that, but how rude the lady was and judgmental she was, and, shaming me and all that. It was a bunch of crap. So I went home and I had some ice cream and I forgot all about it. Okay. I literally said, no, that's not true. And I don't have cervical cancer. Okay. I went on years later to have my daughter. I had my daughter at 22 years old and perfect health. All right. So it's really important to start to see the patterns of illness if we have had anything like that. Maybe we haven't. That's why I'm an advocate for health and natural health, or the choice of what we choose for ourselves for our health based on our own unique backgrounds and medical history and experiences, also our DNA and genetics. I mean, the whole thing. And when I say genetics and DNA, I'm talking about what we've experienced, and yet also epigenetics, which is where we can override any codes that are erroneous, meaning, if someone had something in our family lineage, it doesn't mean we're going to have it. If we believe that it means we're going to have it, like, oh yeah, cancer runs in my family, or high blood pressure or any of those things, if we believe it to be so, then it is so. So as you think, as you believe, so shall you be. Okay. I can't make it any more blunt than that. If you need any support with these topics, I'm here for it. Like, this is where the shit is getting real. It's getting real in the physical. So where am I going with all of this? Well, if you're currently dealing with any maladies, maybe you've had an illness for a super long time and you're ready to shift it, you have to go inside and see what created this. And a lot of us are storing trauma of what we experienced, especially sexual trauma or any kind of physical abuse, is in the tissues. So then we have to look at the emotions. Do we have a need to be right? Have we released our rage in a healthy way? What are we doing to bring ourselves back into balance, to bring ourselves back into harmony? Some of us can feel so damaged physically that it's like, I don't even know how I'm going to get back, to where I was. When I worked with clients in the light body prana yoga, a lot of them were having breakdowns because they were realizing, that they betrayed their body through their own pain, whether that was self-medication or anything, addiction, food, eating disorders, whatever. It doesn't matter. I did all of those things. It doesn't matter. It's a coping mechanism until you really acquire the tools. And one of the best ones would be the breath. And I highly suggest, if you're interested in the breath work, I have a couple videos, sharing the basics. And I suggest the alternate nostril breathing, like just do it for 2 to 3 minutes a day, and maybe not every day, because breath is the most efficient and immediate action. It is spirit. That's when we start to actually work with spirit, when we start to work with our breath. And it's the most effective healing tool that we have, the most incredible and complicated healing technology that we have, that is very simple to implement. And yet with that, we must honor it and hold a great deal of respect for it as a healing modality, because it immediately cuts to the quick of the subconscious, of what needs to be purged, so that we can be in alignment and actually make room within ourselves, for our higher self, our soul, to come in. That's how we raise our frequency. So the frequency of our bodies and of our health, it is a very high frequency. And that's why I'm guided to share all of this right now, is because of the North Node going into Taurus for the next year and a half. If you're struggling with health issues, or an imbalanced or an unhealthy view of your body, or something where you don't love your body, you don't like it, you feel limited or constrained by it. Trust me, I had all of those things. And I actually didn't feel comfortable in my body or appreciate it until 2017, 2018. Even though I knew how miraculous it was, and that I could be in charge and I could program it, because it is a liquid crystalline matrix. It is a computer that we can program with our mind and with our heart and our emotions. And laughter is one of the best healing medicines that you could ever do, because when you laugh and really get into it and giggling, then you're raising your frequency really high, and you can target that energy like a laser to anything that's out of balance. So we need support with this. If you need a therapist, or a psychologist, I've been through pretty much every trauma that you could go through. So yeah, I may not have a PhD in psychology or anything like that, but personally, I'd rather work with someone who's actually been through it than someone with a slip of paper. And this is the feedback I received time and time again when I worked at Passages in Ventura in California. This is a holistic substance abuse center. I worked there because I'm a minister. I worked there as a spiritual counselor, and people really appreciated how I would share my substance abuse journey, my eating disorder issues, my body dysmorphia, all of these different things that I went through, anxiety, because this is what makes us expand, is these experiences. If we get stuck in a loop and over identifying with it, like I am this, I have that, well, then yeah, you do. Do you want more, or are you satisfied with where you are? So I'm sharing this because this is the time to get real about our health, and to start to bring a whole new level of awareness and appreciation for our physical body temple, to start to own that it's never too late to make a change, to start shifting and adapting healthier practices, and to start to prioritize our physical health, because the frequencies are going to continue to lift. And it's very ironic, because the body is how we come in as a spirit, as a consciousness. It's also can be how we leave. So it's up to the individual of what you make of this information. But I encourage you to seek support, personal trainers, gym membership, reach out to any kind of professionals that can support you. I'm not saying reach out to me, and I'm not a psychologist. I would never say that. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying reach out to the real people, hypnotherapists, the different holistic offerings There are many. We're all over the world waiting to support you. So please find your team, create your team, go with the breath work, find support groups, start to build community. Like, hey, I'm going to shift my narrative for myself. I'm going to start loving my body, and I'm going to see what I can do with it, because there are no limits to my body. And before, I was kind of coming from a limited place because I didn't know otherwise. And now I'm starting to gain awareness that maybe there's more to this. I'm curious, come at it with a curiosity. Please never have any shame or guilt. These are the energies that create the dis-ease. Process what you need to process. If your body is in a state, where it's just not cooperating with you, maybe you're in a really declining state of health. There are many things that you can try if you're open to it. You've got to have an open heart and an open mind, asking the divine to support you and show you the way for the revelation codes to come through you. Your soul will show you what will support you the best. If you're in a state, though, like, I have people that I know who are in various states of paralysis, or things as serious as MS, where their body is not cooperating because their nervous system is in a very deteriorated state. That being said, it doesn't mean that it's ever too late. Okay. I suggest Tai Qi Gung. I'm going to link it below. I'm studying to be a Lama with this Lamasery, with Rasaji Shakti. And he has breathing and really gentle movement exercises that you can do in a chair. I mean, there are people in their 80s and 90s. There are people who are morbidly obese. There are people with COPD, advanced stages of diabetes, serious illness, right? Serious dis-ease in their physical body, that are wanting to create more space within themselves for healing to take place. This is a great way to do it, working with the subtle realms. So I really hope that this video was concise and clear. I hope the message came through, which is honor your body, trust that you're meant to be here. And if you want to be here and have the most incredible experience, you definitely can. I'm part of the message of that invitation to you, welcoming you home to your body, to your sacred temple. And even if it's not perfect and how you would define perfection, maybe how it was when you were in your teens or your 20s, who fucking cares? You can start now. So it's all about attitude and faith and belief, and what you really see. What do you hold so close to your heart that almost feels impossible, but it's a dream, of coming into health. What's your dream? So I'm going to close it with that. I thank you so much for joining me. This has been really real, and I hope that this is supportive. If there's any specific topics you want to go deeper on, please feel free to comment below or email me personally. If it's too private to want to put on, on the public platform, I totally understand. Email me, marissaindigo@gmail.com. And this is why I do all of this, is to share what I've received. We've all been through hell, and now we're at the crossroads to create new earth. So it's time to get real. It's time to decide, do you believe that you're worthy of being here? Do you want to be here? And if you do, then it's mind over matter. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm living proof of that. And so is my child. So I thank you so much for joining me. Please feel free to share this with anyone that you think it may touch, because this is what we're doing. We are lighting each other up. We are sparking each other as we come home to this. And then we build heaven all around us together. So thank you. And I look forward to seeing you for the next video. All right.